Hey everyone, before we talk about the man, the myth, the legend, Val Kilmer, make sure you follow us on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts. Rating us 5 stars and leaving a review really helps us out. So for those of you who have, we thank you and appreciate it. Enjoy the show and make sure you stick around till the end to figure out what's coming next. Now on to the show.
Why, Johnny Ringo, you look like somebody just walked over your grave.
Welcome to our inaugural episode of a new series titled Special Features. Really, these are just bonus episodes rebranded. There's nothing different than our other bonus episodes, but we found the new name.
Way to really kill the hype around it, Randy. Way to just take whatever joy people were feeling and smash it.
Yeah, especially when I really like that name, Special Features. I mean, that's...
I don't know why you're downplaying this.
I know. I'm, what do they call it? Fumbling the bag or something? I don't know.
You're fumbling something.
I'm fumbling something. We're kicking this off with our first actor deep dive. Structure-wise, we'll discuss a little of their background, what we think makes them a memorable actor, special. Attempt, then, to build their Mount Rushmore of roles by selecting and discussing in more depth what we believe to be their 4 most iconic performances from the movies we've seen. Obviously, Nick and I can't see every movie that an actor has ever done. So we're going a little bit off of what we know. We are christening this series by covering, as Nick mentioned, the late, great Val Kilmer. I'm Randy Berridge. I'm here with Nick Hinkson. Here we go.
I do just want to throw this out there to anyone who may be listening. If you agree with our Mount Rushmore, you can thank me in the comments. But if you disagree, I'll give you Randy's personal email and you can reach out to him and yell at him because it was definitely all him. Unless you agree, then I did this.
Yeah. You could also give out our podcast email, which we've had an email or two at recently.
Yeah.
Actually, we got to talk about that. We had someone reach out that is an actual author, like with some, I wouldn't say notoriety. You know, it's not like Stephen King is reaching out to us, but someone who'd be interested in coming and talk about their book. And I'm like, maybe we do it. I don't know.
Yeah. I'm
It's a
down.
little peek behind the curtain on the podcast, but I don't know. How you been, dude? We took kind of an undiscussed week break between our Last of Us coverage and kicking this off. I think we were just hitting it pretty heavy with the regular feed and then covering The Last of Us almost every week, that we just need to step away for a week and catch up. So how you been?
Good. Yeah. I think we did what? Like 6 episodes in 6 weeks or something?
We did a lot. I mean, between Mafia May, all The Last of Us, we were coming off of, even some White Lotus episodes, Severance. We had a really TV heavy beginning of the year.
We did.
Which was easy from a prep standpoint because you just watched the episode. But I don't know. Have you been reading anything good lately? What have you been into?
I am working my way through a Brandon Sanderson book, and I am also finishing Gone Girl so that we can cover that here.
Nice. Have you guys been watching any TV lately?
Yeah. So oldie but a goodie, we're watching The West Wing.
Okay.
And Michaela's never seen it before, so it's pretty cool to get to watch that with her. I've only seen it once, and I haven't seen it in like 5 or 6 years, so it is cool to rewatch it. It's honestly surprising how much of Rob Lowe's career has been spent pretending to be in the government between his time on The West Wing and then being a city manager in Parks and Rec. It's like 9 seasons of TV.
I still see him. 2 roles are etched into my Rob Lowe brain, which are Wayne's World and the smarmy guy in Tommy Boy, who Tommy thinks is sleeping with his mother, and it's really they're trying to take over Callahan Auto Parts. Like when I see Rob Lowe, like that is what I think of those, because I watched those movies so much as a kid.
Yeah, fair enough.
And he still looks the same.
That man has not aged in 30 years.
No, vampire.
Genuinely.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, have you ever seen when like Rob Lowe will post stuff on his Instagram and his kids just roast him in the comments?
He seems like a genuinely good dude. I mean, I'm sure it's all, who knows? It's hard to tell with public personas these days.
Yeah.
He seems like a good guy. I like Rob Lowe.
I'll let you know if I meet him.
Yeah, well, please do. Oh my dude, I've realized over oversaturated right now on apocalypse stories, and I'm ready to step away for a little bit.
What apocalypse stories are you doing right now?
Dude, I mean, outside of The Last of Us, which we were covering, and I've started replaying the game, which has been really enjoyable. I've just been kind of slowly chipping away at it, like a chapter here and there every now and then, which is giving me some interesting feelings towards season 2. But it's bringing a lot of love back to the franchise for me. But outside of that, I was watching the other night 28 Days Later, because the new movie's coming out. Just came out this past weekend. We haven't. I think Alyssa will want to see it, so I'm waiting. She's away on a work trip right now. I'm hearing great things about it, so I'm really looking forward to it. 28 Days Later, man, I fired that up. I haven't seen that probably since high school. Kind of crazy to think about how that really kicked off the zombie boom. Like that was pre-Walking Dead, and they weren't really like zombies, and they weren't really making as many that I remember in like the late 90s, early 2000s period until that movie happened. But maybe I just don't know the zombie lore.
Yeah, fair enough. I don't know. Couldn't tell you.
Yeah.
But that sounds right. Because I remember like growing up, movies with zombies were always like slow walking, hands out, like mummies almost. You know, there wasn't a lot of depth to zombies being portrayed in movies.
Yeah, but it was interesting to go back and watch 28 Days Later, especially after The Last of Us, where I'm like, oh, they call them infected in 28 Days Later. And oh, there's a sentimental scene with animals in 28 Days Later when they're with Mad Eye Moody and Moneypenny from the Bond franchise, and they see the horses in the field. I'm like, oh, this is like the giraffe. So it's really interesting seeing these things and how they build in stories like these. And Neil Druckmann he was probably pretty young. I think he was in college at this time. 28 Days Later probably came out then. And he probably watched that and was like, I can see the DNA of that now coming through The Last of Us. But outside of that, dude, I just finished this morning Station 11, the book. We had watched the TV show earlier this year. And I'm so in love with this story. The book is a book series, so I'm definitely going to continue on with it. It is so wildly different from the TV show as well. And both of them are great. It's a weird example. I would love to cover it. Like, I really would love to. Also, like, does anybody know or care about Station 11? I have no idea. Maybe there's somebody out there, but man, I love it. I love it so much.
If we care about it, or you care about it, let's cover it.
Yeah.
I'll read it. Let me get the book. Give me a little bit. I'll read it.
I would say I'd be interested. There's a part of me that would want to tell you, watch the show first and then read the book, because that's what I did. And it made the book easier to know the characters. It's kind of like watching season 1 of Game of Thrones before. But I would be really interested to see your perspective if you went book to show, because they are so different.
Okay.
Where I have a strong preference for which one I like, even though I do like them both. But man, there's a character dynamic in that story that instantly, like, Hall of Fame in my mind. I just love this duo so much. And I will for the rest of my life. Like, I want to go watch the show again right now. It's great stuff. But
hang on, give me 2 seconds. I'm going to order the book while we're talking about it.
Yeah,
Station
I think you'll like
11.
And what's nice is it's
by Emily St. John Mandel.
St. John Mandel, yeah. I forget what the sequels are called, but it's nice in that it's a little bit more of a human story as opposed to a typical apocalypse story. Like, there's the setup that's basically the window dressing of the story, as opposed to being about pain and death. And I mean, there is that in the story, but it's a little bit different than 28 Days Later for sure.
Okay.
I mean, and it invented the concept, which I did not know. I don't know if you've ever heard with like these type of stories, like To the Monsters, We're the Monsters. When you're talking about stories, that came from that book series.
I Am Legend.
Oh, is that what? Oh, I didn't even know that was in that as well.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Well, okay. Are we going to cover it? Because I don't want to talk about. Let's move on, because we're about to spoil some stuff for things we're probably going to cover.
Yeah, Val Kilmer.
Yeah. Let's get to Val.
Yeah, let's get to Val. I also, though, I did want to say too, I saw Life of Chuck yesterday, which I really liked. They were doing an independent screening of it. I haven't read it yet, but I'm pretty sure it's just a short story that's only like, I think it's sub 100 pages. So that'll be an easy read for us. But yeah, I mean, today we were talking about Val Kilmer, so let's get on to that. We'll cover Station 11 at some other point. But so yeah, like I said, we're going to hit background, and then we're going to go through building Val's Mount Rushmore. So I'm not going to keep, make this go on too long. You don't need his full biography, but it's good to set it up. Kilmer, he was born in the Valley in LA in 1959. His parents separated when he was 8, and he spent his youth bouncing around the San Fernando Valley in California, Texas, New Mexico. He was one of 3 brothers who were all obsessed with film and spent their childhood creating short films, writing stories. He actually grew up across from the Roy Rogers Ranch, which is where they did a lot of Westerns at the time when he was growing up. So he was just very close to all that. And in the 70s, he became the youngest person at the time to be accepted into the Juilliard School's drama division. It's a famed theater school in New York City. I don't know much about the theater world, but apparently this is like, I don't know, what's the Johnson and Wales? Is that like the cooking school? I think it's like,
Beats me, man.
It's that version for theater.
Yeah, everybody knows what Juilliard is. Yeah.
Everyone knows Juilliard. Yeah, we considered going.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
For podcasting, because that was a major at Juilliard.
Do you imagine
2010.
if they had podcasting school? There probably does exist some sort of podcasting school right now.
No,
Or
podcasting
classes.
school is some wannabe influencer selling you on classes on how to teach other people how to do podcasts.
Yeah, what I was going to say is it's at some sort of event where there's just a lot of white dudes hanging out, like, I don't know, microbrewery having a Hall & Oates night or something. It's where they host their podcast schools. But
because if the world needs one more thing, it's 2 more white guys with a podcast.
But listen to ours, please do.
Yeah, ours is different.
yeah, we're very unique and cool. Sadly, while Kilmer was traveling across the country to New York City to go to school, his younger brother Wesley had a seizure and drowned in their hot tub back at home when he was 15. You really get the sense, I read Val's memoir, which came out, it was a memoir, so it came out before he passed away as he wrote it. You really get the sense that this tragedy, as it would, stayed with him the rest of his life. I mean, he is constantly ruminating on it through his entire memoir in every phase of his life. And, it really kicked off his start in this acting world with tragedy, and it's a little shame, that it bookends his life too in tragedy as well. This past year, his rebellious spirit that we see in his films, it really clashed with the tradition steeped school of Juilliard. He, while he did become a theater kid for life in a lot of ways and would continuously return to the stage, he really struggled with the traditional kind of values of Juilliard and how they wanted them to be and the molds they were trying to put them in. But, he did value his experience there. He caught his break in 82 when he was cast as the lead in Top Secret, a musical spy parody by Jim Abrahams, who's the guy who did Airplane, The Naked Gun, Hot Shots. Leading role right out of the gate. I think I'll stop the biography there, as that was his first role, and we're going to be getting into talking about his life and roles as we build our Mount Rushmore. But I think I'd be remiss not to mention the end of the story, which is that, sadly, Kilmer passed away this year, April 1st, 2025, prompting the idea of this episode. He was diagnosed with throat cancer in 2015. He underwent surgery and chemo, and as of 2020, he was cancer-free for 4 years. He resumed a normal creative life, despite needing a voice box to speak until he passed away due to pneumonia and other complications from the cancer. Tragically, too, this came just as Kilmer was completing his Twain stage production, which he really felt and was writing in his book was his magnum opus. And he was having just so much joy as he was writing this memoir of his life, talking about bringing this thing that he has always wanted to bring to the stage and this character. And he was doing these kind of one-off, would just show up at theaters and put on a solo performance of Twain and like riffing live with the audience. And it seemed to be bringing him so much joy in life until this illness, got him, it's a huge shame. But Nick, I want to turn this over to you and get your thoughts on Val, because I think for anyone who watched movies between 1985 and 2000, Kilmer was an inescapable presence on the big screen. And yet I still think he goes down as one of the most underappreciated actors of his time. So, I mean, what makes Val special to you, Nick?
I think Val had that it factor on screen, whether he is in a leading role or whether he was in an ensemble or just a one-off supporting role. I felt that when Val Kilmer was on screen, you had to pay attention. Your eyes just couldn't go anywhere else. And I also feel, especially in the movies we're about to discuss as part of the Mount Rushmore, he adds a lot of depth to characters with the limited, in some cases, limited screen time he has. And I think that, to your point about being underappreciated, I mean, we were talking about this before the episode. Not all great actors are movie stars, and not all movie stars are great actors, but I feel like he's one of the few that kind of finds the middle of that Venn diagram.
Yeah. Do you think that, I always wonder, I mean, obviously we're not actors, like, can that be taught, that that presence on the camera where you are drawn to this person no matter how big or small their part is?
I don't think so. I think you either have it or you don't. And I think you can get, I think you need to have it, and then I think you also need to hone it. Because I'm sure there's a lot of people that have it that don't quite ever make it for one reason or another.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Yeah.
I don't really think it's kind of like with like art, like musicians or, other forms of media. Some people, when they're on a stage, it looks like that's where they were born to be.
Yeah.
And other people can put on really great shows, but there's a reason there's an elite tier.
Yeah. I mean, there's a million technically proficient guitarists out there.
Right.
There's only a few Eddie Van Halen's or Jimmy Page's. Yeah, I think when you bring up that presence too, it's like, I mean, obviously Val has the looks as well. Like he's a striking looking guy. He's got a great silhouette, but you
He's a stunner.
You don't even have to be that to kind of command that. I think a little bit these days of Jesse Plemons, the guy who played Todd in Breaking Bad. He was in the Civil War movie. He has that kind of, you're just a little bit drawn to him when he's on the screen, mainly because he freaks me the hell out of like, what is he going to do? And even when he's playing very tiny roles in movies, he kind of commands something like that. But something I appreciate of Val, I always felt like he's a real chameleon actor.
What do you mean?
He can slip into roles, and outside of Top Gun, because that was kind of my first experience of him, I can find that I forget that it's him in a way. And there's some actors where, for better or worse, it feels like you're seeing their real life persona in every movie they're doing. Maybe not their real life persona, but they're being a little bit of their character. Mm-hmm. It's no shade against them, but I think, someone like a Vince Vaughn. Vince Vaughn is always going to be Vince Vaughn. We were talking about Jason Statham before this. Like Jason Statham, he's just being this same type of person, where I feel like Val can just completely slither into a new skin, and you forget sometimes that you're watching Val Kilmer. And that's a special skill in itself, I find.
Yeah.
So I always love that. I think of that a lot with like a Gary Oldman, where, him as Commissioner Gordon, you're like, that's Sirius Black? Like, are you kidding me?
Right.
Like that is a very unique trait, I find. They say there's no small parts, only small actors. And I think Val lives that a little bit. The only final thing I'll bring up that I like about him, and I don't know if you sense this as well, and maybe I felt it more because I just read that memoir book, I find he brings a lot of quiet pain to his roles. And we'll talk about that. I mean, it's not very quiet in one of them. In others, you feel this weight on his actor when you're seeing them on screen. And I think that unfortunately stems from a lot of pain he had in real life early, dealing with the loss of a brother and, other, family issues. And I think, unfortunately, and fortunately for us as viewers, it made some of his roles instantly iconic and have so much depth to them, which I always appreciated. Do you want to get into building this Mount Rushmore?
Yeah, should we go left to right? Start with his George Washington and end with his Abraham Lincoln?
Yeah, should we? Yeah, we can assign the actual.
Are you impressed
presidents.
I knew that?
Yeah. Who are the other two up there? Teddy Roosevelt?
Left to right, It's George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Teddy Roosevelt, Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah, okay. So who's our Washington? Who's our first entry?
I mean,
into the Val Kilmer Mount Rushmore.
It's got to be Top Gun.
Yeah,
it's got to be Iceman.
We've talked about this movie a lot already. Check out that episode. But this is crazy because it's a pretty big part. I'd say it's the second.
It's the second lead.
It's the main antagonist in a non-antagonist type of movie. Man, I guess my question for you is, one, if you want to talk about how much we love Top Gun again, we can do that. But I am curious of what makes this role so memorable, because there have been, you and I ourselves have watched thousands of action movies probably. There are so many action movie antagonists, and usually they just come and go. They're just there to be a foil to your hero.
Yeah.
But Iceman has stood the test of time, and I'm like, what is Kilmer doing here that works so well?
He's doing a lot of things that work well. A, shirtless volleyball. B, nothing about Val Kilmer's character is overblown. And I feel like in so many action movies, there's just something like everyone tries to bring this one ridiculous nuance to their portrayal of these villains.
Yeah.
And he was just like doing his thing. Like he's a fighter pilot. You figured those people are kind of cocky. Then they're like the best of the best fighter pilots. And you're like, okay, this arrogance makes sense. But then at the same time, his gripe with our hero in this is totally legitimate.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to work with Maverick because Maverick's going to get somebody killed because he's reckless and doesn't care about his wingman. And like, that's the crux of them fighting. So like, you have no choice but to be like, he's got a point.
Yeah. We talked about that a lot in the episode. It's a perfect example of, you can't even call him a villain in this movie, but he's
antagonist.
He's the antagonist with a point, where you get older and you're like, kind of agree with Iceman.
And it's, it's not even that deep. Sometimes they try to give these antagonists these big like political or economic or whatever like viewpoints that you're like, yeah, that could make sense. But then at this time, he's just like, you're going to get one of us killed because you're a bad partner. And then you see Maverick be a bad partner the whole time. Like,
yeah, no, I agree. There was a lot of backstory he talked about with his role that he never brought into the, I think in a verbal way, the screen performance. But he talked a lot about how he was inventing, he needed to know why Iceman was the way he was. And the headcanon that Val was telling himself was Iceman's dad was a legendary pilot, and he was constantly trying to live up to the expectations of his dad and felt like he was always failing. And the only way he could do that was to be perfect and to be the top of the class. And he sees Maverick come in and be this person who is going to completely spoil all of that. And he's just trying to be the best pilot he can to get the approval of his father. And none of that's in the movie. None of that is even exist in the director or the writer's idea of the story. This is all stuff that Val is just making up in his head to give some depth to Iceman. And I don't know. It's hindsight's 2020, but I feel it works. I feel that you can see that in there, that there's some real angst Iceman is feeling.
Yeah, I'm like processing what you're saying. And I think as we talk about these other three roles on this Mount Rushmore, that feels like it's going to be a prevailing theme where, to what we were saying earlier about the depth Val Kilmer brought to his characters, he did it all beforehand. And that's really, and I'm gonna have to read his memoirs because you seem to light up when you're talking about it, and I wanna understand the way you understand.
He's a quirky guy in a good way. He's a true artist. He's very reflective. I'd say even the Val documentary on Prime that came out in 21. It's basically the oral history of the memoir. So if you kind of don't want to saddle into the book, you can just watch that.
Okay.
But it's interesting. The other thing that I feel really works in this is he discusses how behind the scenes there were two camps in the movie. There was Iceman's camp and Maverick's camp. And even on set, He's like, me and my guys only hung out with each other and fucked with Tom. And Cruz's camp and him and Goose, they only hung out with each other. And he's like, we did not intermingle. He said, we
That's
all
so
went out
funny.
drinking every night, but in our own camps. And I feel that shows on screen. Like,
It does.
that Kilmer did feel he had a little bit of a chip on his shoulder that Tom is like this huge rising movie star. And he's like, I'm just as good. I'm Iceman.
I like that.
Yeah. So I think there's a little reality in what came to the screen there. I thought too you were going to mention the gum chewing as one of the reasons Iceman is so great, because him and Maverick's gum chewing is just out of this world.
I have to be honest. One of the things that makes my skin crawl is people chewing gum with their mouth open.
Yeah.
That sound, especially when it's like quiet. And it makes it hard for me to watch that movie sometimes. Like if I'm in a mood,
Yeah.
it's going to set me off watching them chew gum. So
it's a detractor.
yeah, it actually is.
Yeah. So despite all that,
that's the one thing I did feel was overblown in Top Gun, especially from him, is just the aggressively obnoxious gum chewing.
Yeah. He does like the teeth snap too at one point, doesn't he?
Yeah. And I'm just like, motherfucker. Like, that's my only note for that whole movie.
Totally. The other crazy thing that they talked about a lot was, he says they really had no idea this was going to be a hit when they were making it. They thought it sucked, honestly. He was like, this movie is going to be so bad. And he said the only thing that drove it through was the true passion of Tony Scott, the director, who was just so about making this as real as possible with the jets, and was so fired up that he brought that enthusiasm to the whole cast. And it's so crazy to me thinking about making a movie and you're filming this and you just have no idea how it's going to turn out. And they're making this, goes down as one of the most, I don't know, iconic action movies of all time. And they thought it sucked when they were making it. They're like, this is going to be terrible. This is going to flop big time. It's like so hard to know anything.
That's such a common theme in all art forms. It's the song that barely made the album, or the song you didn't want on the album, and somebody else was like, maybe we should keep this one, and you were like, this is the worst song I've ever written, and now it's your biggest, or like a movie you think is gonna suck is great. And I think that's indicative of, you ever like think about Cats and how awesome they tried to make that movie with a star-studded cast and a gazillion dollars, and it was the worst thing I've ever seen in my entire life and made me want to quit watching TV forever.
Yeah.
It just, I don't know. That's how you know it's going to be good, is when, or I mean, it could have sucked, to be fair, I guess, but like it has a chance to be good when the people involved are unsure, but they gave it their all.
Totally. I just watched, there's an HBO music documentary called Yacht Rock about the genre of music.
Yeah.
And Toto was on it. And they talked about how they threw Africa as the last song on the B-side because they needed one more song. They hated it. And then they were like, the guy, Modern Day, was just like, what the hell do I know? Ended up being our only number one song. Launched them back into superstardom because they were big before then. And then they had a few album slump. And it's classic. It's art, art is tough and you never know how it's going to be received. And I'm happy that we're always going to have the Iceman because, I think with our action movie series, I was thinking of new awards. I was like, we might have to have like a King of Cool award for Iceman or something because, man, he's just so great in this. Do you want to tee up our second entry in the Mount Rushmore? Who's the next president in line? Is it I forget already. Who's number 2 on the Rushmore?
TJ. Thomas Jefferson.
Okay.
I don't think you would appreciate me calling him TJ, but
I think this next entry aligns a little bit with Jefferson. Little expansion out west, Louisiana Purchase.
Okay. Oh, I see what you're doing there.
Right?
I don't know. Yeah. You know what? I'm not going to say much because I don't want my lack of American history to be on record forever.
Yeah.
So this is the 1993 star-studded classic, Tombstone. And our boy Val plays the one and only Doc Holliday.
Dude, movie Hall of Fame.
It
First
is
ballot.
Dude Movie Hall of Fame.
First ballot. How does Greg Hinkson feel about Tombstone? Do you know?
You know what? I don't. I should have asked prior to recording this. You know what? Here's what I'll do. I'll ask, and then we can talk about it on the next episode.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, I didn't tee us up at the top. I love Val because my dad loves Val Kilmer and loves all of his movies. We
should have had Randy on.
This is in my dad's Mount Rushmore tombstone, Doc Holliday.
Wow. Dude, Skype him in. Let's get some Randy Berridge takes.
Let's get him on the horn.
For those of you who don't know, Randy's dad is also named Randy. And played clarinet in high school.
And played clarinet in high school. You know, but not many clarinets in the Tombstone movie. I don't think it was the vibe then.
I don't know the history of the clarinet, but I would assume that there was approximately 0 in the American West in the 1800s.
Yeah, can't imagine. There was a lot of whistle blowing going on back then. Not in that way, at least. Tombstone. Nick, you're fresh. You just rewatched this last night and this morning. How do you feel about Tombstone?
Oh, it's amazing.
It's amazing. It's so good.
It holds up. This movie is what, 32 years old. Holds up.
It really
now,
does.
There's some early 90s corniness to, like, especially to the action scenes, right?
Yeah.
Like when they're just like smacking people around and there's like these crazy delayed reactions by some of the the bad guys.
Yeah.
It's still it just works. Like when Sam Elliott's like smacking guys and he's like taking 17 steps to get a gun and hit this guy and the guy finally moves his hand. It's funny. It is funny, but man,
what a voice on Sam Elliott.
The Val Kilmer, Kurt Russell combination there felt pretty cool, especially at the end when, it was kind of just them.
Yeah. This movie's incredible. This is another, movies to me are a miracle because the director of this, George Cosmatos, got kind of like booted off the film because he was doing such a bad job. And it came out after he died because they didn't want to reveal this and have it look poorly on him. But Kurt Russell unofficially directed this entire movie and gave the credit to the director, George Cosmatos. And then after he died, the cast revealed that Kurt Russell was the one directing this entire thing on the set because this other guy just couldn't handle it at the time. And they thought it was going to be a nightmare. But Val talks about just how much fun he had on the set of this movie. And how could you not have fun on the set of this movie? Bill Paxton in here? Billy Bob Thornton as the drunk guy in the bar. There are so many people in this movie. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. I mean, and actually, the Billy Bob Thornton was the one I forgot about.
Because it doesn't look anything like him.
No, he's so young.
Yeah.
Dude, Billy Zane.
Yeah. Michael Biehn as Johnny
single-handedly
Ringo.
Brought down the Titanic.
Yeah. What is crazy, I mean, we've talked about this because we could do a full episode on Tombstone because it's an adaptation of real world events. The shootout at the OK Corral in Tombstone, Arizona.
It's like loosely inspired by loosely inspired by events that seem to be real.
Yeah. But hey, Tombstone exists. We could go to Tombstone, do a live recording there.
That'd be cool.
That would be really cool.
Or it could suck. I don't really know much about Tombstone, Arizona these days.
No, me neither.
Let's see what the Google machine has to say.
But I know that they have a little bit of not a parade, but a celebration. I guess maybe it's on the date of the OK Corral fight. There's a little celebration that goes on, for the movie and the fight that took place that day. Because Wyatt Earp, Doc Holliday, these were all real people. Did it play out exactly like this? Who's to say? I'm gonna choose to believe.
Yeah, it seems like Tombstone, Arizona is mostly a museum.
Yeah. I mean, it's like one of those old Western towns where it's basically just a monument to, the Wild West life that is purely... Guess what
the population of Tombstone, Arizona is?
Got to be like 700.
1,312.
Yeah.
It's not a bad guess.
Yeah, I knew it wasn't cracking 5K.
So what about this role for Val Kilmer hits you right in the face?
I mean, this is when I said he's a chameleon actor. I mean, this is it for me. Everything he's doing here, the voice work, he's not writing the flowery language, but his like how he chose to deliver these lines, it's hard. If you saw this on a page, you could see this coming off so stupidly and just really not working. And somehow Kilmer translate this off the wall character who's speaking Latin and doing gun tricks and sweating profusely into one of the coolest movie characters of all time, with some of the most mic drop moments in a movie of all time. And a lot of that is the writing and the directing too. But to me, I think this is Kilmer's best performance ever. And he steals every single scene he's in. I love this movie and this performance so much.
Yeah, he does a really good job, I think, building the pain this character feels both physically and emotionally as he knows he's going to die.
And I love how you talked about the aura at the beginning about what you like about Val. I mean, and that is in this movie for Wyatt Earp, you can feel that Wyatt knows he has the ace in the hole, no matter the situation with Doc.
Yeah.
He feels bad because he doesn't want Doc there because Doc's dying of tuberculosis. But he knows with Doc at his side, whoever they're standing against doesn't have a chance. It's so good.
And then to what you said earlier, the scene where the cowboys are in the bar and they, the one cowboy starts speaking Latin, and then Doc not only matches him but beats him, and then the cowboy gets frustrated, starts doing these gun tricks, and Doc doesn't take the bait, and he just starts flipping the little shot glass around and completely removes the tension from the air. Oh my God, man, that was a charged scene, and he killed it.
And that's the type of scene too where if you told me, hey, I'm going to need you after this guy does all these cool gun tricks, you're going to pick up your shot glass and do the same thing with that. And you two are going to be speaking Latin to each other, no subtitles. We're going to have no idea what you're saying. I'd be like, the fuck are you talking about? And it works. It's amazing. It's a great scene.
It's one of the best scenes of the movie.
I also love when he's really drunk. And I had to write down the quote when Billy Clan is like, why, it's the drunk piano player. You're so drunk you can't hit nothing. In fact, you're probably seeing double. And then he pulls out a second gun and he's like, I have 2 guns, one for each of you. Like, he just so many just banger lines in this movie. Like, just cooking with the dialogue. Some other scenes I want to run through for you was, we have to talk about the OK Corral shootout, the hero walkout of all 4 of them in black coming across the town. I mean, it looks like a WWF wrestling stable coming out to the ring. It's incredible. It shouldn't work. And like you said, it's so cheesy, like 80s, 90s. But Nick, why does it work?
Because, like you said, it looks like the Undertaker and Kane are coming out next to each other for the first time. You have 3.5 action stars standing in a row, and it is badass.
Yeah. And I love in that scene when the shootout is about to kick off, everyone looks like they're shitting their pants. And then it flashes to Doc Holliday and he just gives Johnny Ringo a wink. The only one who knows, I'm not making it long anyway. I've got nothing to lose. And that's when Johnny Ringo, not the first time, when you can tell he's scared of Doc. And he's like, this is an adversary that I cannot go up against. And this guy is, he's all in, chips on the table, every interaction he's having. Just so good.
Yeah, I think to your point, he did a really good job physically showing me, not telling me, that every interaction could be his last, and he was ready for that. And that gave him a special kind of freedom, and everybody else knew it.
100%. And then we have to talk about, I remember the first time I'm seeing this as a youngster, probably on cable TV. This was probably on TBS or something. And no, this was more of an AMC maybe movie. And you're seeing they're at it's another famous actor. I forget. They're holed up at someone's towards the end of the movie, and you think Wyatt and Doc are talking, and Wyatt's talking about how he's nervous to go and end this with Johnny Ringo. And when I'm watching this, I'm like, Wyatt's going to go off and he's going to die in this fight. And when he has the meeting with Johnny Ringo, I'm like, I don't think Wyatt can take him. And Johnny Ringo is standing there, in the dimly lit area, and you see someone walking out and you think it's Wyatt, after he's left Doc. And then you just hear I'm your Huckleberry. Dude, I get chills thinking about that scene every time he walks out of the clearing, and you're like, and as soon as you see it's him, you and Johnny Ringo know it's done. You don't have a chance.
Yeah.
Like, one of the most subtle, greatest action climaxes of all time for me. So good.
It just occurred to me.
What?
We probably should have made this the Teddy Roosevelt. The whole Rough Riders thing would have fit better.
Riders. Yeah.
This is like a real missed opportunity. Should we re-record?
Revisionist history. This is Teddy Roosevelt.
Yeah. So we skipped Thomas Jefferson. We're coming back to Thomas Jefferson next.
Yeah. That scene is just so good. Did you watch that this morning? Were you there, or were you already past that when you finished the movie?
No, I got to that this morning. It was like 7 a.m. and I was like fist pumping.
Didn't even need coffee.
Yeah. Yeah, that was my first cup. This is my second. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. I mean, and then so sincere, his death scene, which is coming through this movie.
Yeah.
And him telling, just the heartfelt conversation between him and Wyatt to go and live, and if you have any feeling for me, leave now, please. He doesn't want him to be there to see him die. Just,
But he gives him the book, My Friend Doc Holliday by Wyatt Earp.
Incredible
stuff. He gets
to
see that it's a thing right before Pat. That was cool. They did. That was a good moment in that movie. Like, well done moment, I should say.
Mm-hmm. Doc Holliday, all time, crazy. Not even nominated for Best Supporting Actor. Not even nominated at the Oscars.
Was anything else nominated from that movie?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I think that was probably one of those movies that didn't get appreciated. It's also it's such a bro movie.
It is.
That it's not Oscar bait.
Yeah.
Even though some of those performances deserved consideration, they were never going to get it.
No. I think, what's tough is it lost out. He would have been going up against Tommy Lee Jones in The Fugitive, which is a great Oscar-worthy performance. Another dad movie, Hall of Fame. Tommy Lee Jones has had enough esteem in his life. I would love to give this one to Val for him to have his Oscar, if I could. You ready to move on to the next one? I guess this is our TJ.
Yeah. What do you got for me?
We are teeing up one of the most seen movies of my entire life. Ran this VHS back every day as a kid. 1995, Joel Schumacher's Batman Forever. Nick, I'm curious. I'm not expecting that this was one of those movies for you as a kid. I don't honestly know your history with this movie. I would be curious to know, outside of how you feel about this movie, what were the young child brain Nick Hinkson is just repeated viewing, the version of a kid today who's just watching Frozen on repeat or something like that. What was that movie for Nick Hinkson as a kid?
According to my parents, that was The Lion King.
Oh yeah, obviously. Lion King's great.
After that, though, I don't think, I'm trying to think. I think I had a period of revolt where I wouldn't watch movies over and over again because I was watching my dad do that and I was getting sick of things. So for probably post Lion King until I was in my mid-20s, I didn't watch things over and over and over again. And now I'm just like my dad and I watch the same 5 things over and over and over again.
Yeah. Still The Lion King.
I mean, I never said anything changed.
Yeah, great movie. But Batman Forever, I was Batman obsessed as a kid.
I think that the Batman movies of that time period get a lot of unnecessary heat because the Batman movies of that time were made for people who enjoyed comic books and kids. It's kind of like Star Wars and the prequels. Yeah, if you grew up watching the originals, you are no longer the target audience for new Star Wars content.
Yeah.
Same thing here. This is not a movie designed to win Oscars. action hero movies in the 90s were just inherently silly.
Yeah. It's just what we were getting.
And that's, I mean, just think about the cast and that, like Jim Carrey, Chris O'Donnell, Drew Barrymore, Tommy Lee, Val Kilmer, like
Nicole Kidman. Yeah.
Nicole Kidman was in this. That's right. Who else was in this? I don't think
I mean, those were for sure the big ones. I mean, Alfred was kind of the same Alfred for a bit, Michael Gough. But those were the big casts. Okay. I was about to give a really hot take that this is my second favorite Batman movie ever after The Dark Knight. I think if I'm being true to myself, it is. If I'm being completely honest, I do
that's
love
fair.
the Batman with Pattinson. I really like that movie. But this was everything to me as a kid. This was my Power Rangers, my Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I was obsessed with this movie and obsessed with Batman. And this just hit at the perfect time. And it is so silly. I don't know the last time you've rewatched this movie. I watched it after his death, probably a month or two ago. I don't care what anyone. I love it. It's great. It's so good.
And there's no nipples on the batsuit.
And like you said, I mean, you got Tommy Lee as Two-Face, Jim Carrey as the Riddler.
Jim Carrey was an awesome Riddler.
They hated each other on set because Jim Carrey was just pissing off Tommy Lee Jones so much. And I love that. It makes the dynamic work. I love this movie. And this is one, to put in the notch of Val Kilmer in the leading role as Bruce Wayne.
Absolutely.
One of my favorite Bruce Waynes outside. I mean, I do love Christian Bale as Bruce Wayne. I really do. But Kilmer's up there. I mean, he's what I grew up with. He's my Pierce Brosnan in a way, in terms of, for the Bond comp. I just really love Kilmer as Batman. I don't know what else you want me to tell you.
He's I think, easily in the top 3 live action Batman. Now, there could be an argument for like Kevin Conroy or Keanu Reeves, Josh Hutcherson, like the people who've done the voice acting.
Yeah.
Like if you really like some of those cartoons, I could see you putting some of them in there as, and that's fine. But in the caveat of live action Batman, he's probably he's tied, I don't know, it's Christian Bale is, I think, my favorite. And then him and Robert Pattinson are like right next to each other, but for very different reasons. And that's why it's really hard to compare them.
Yeah, I agree. He brought similar to the Iceman, he can do that a little bit elitist, portrayal really well. And he brings the good sort of old money Bruce Wayne vibe to this.
Yes.
I mean, we also get from this movie Seal, A Kiss from a Rose, maybe the greatest movie tie-in song of all time. I mean, it took over the world. Could you imagine that type of song being popular today? It would just never happen.
See, listen, I have to push it back here because Wild Wild West by Will Smith.
True. Yeah.
And on a more serious note, Iris by the Goo Goo Dolls is a movie tie-in for that Nicolas Cage movie, He's a Robot. And that might be the only one I can think of that is bigger than Kiss from a Rose. But to your point, Kiss from a Rose, elite movie tie-in, probably the second most popular of all time.
Yeah. I mean, and it's so 90s where if you were trying to pair a song with a Batman movie, that's never the song you would pick out of the gate, the average person.
Yes, it is.
It works so well. I mean, I had that cassette, and man, I couldn't tell you one other song on the Batman Forever cassette because it was just scrolling to that one every time.
Let's find out. I'm going to Google this.
Yeah.
Batman Forever.
While you search that, I also just want to pop off about, this was my first experience with the bat wing that crashed into the water. The wings came off and turned into the sort of bat submarine in this movie. I had that toy as a kid. Thing was unbelievable. Blew my mind.
I remember that toy you're talking about.
Yeah, the arms snapped off.
Yep.
So it could become I'm pretty sure I still have it at my parents'.
There's some names that you would still recognize on here.
Yeah, throw some at me from the soundtrack.
Okay, so U2 is on this soundtrack.
Yeah, okay.
Sunny Day Real Estate, which I couldn't name anything they did, but that name is familiar from that time. You have Seal, obviously.
Seal. Yeah.
You have the Flaming Lips and the Offspring.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, there's some pretty popular
90s soundtrack right there.
I'm also looking at Method Man on here. Just saw that. Brandy is on this album. I don't actually recognize. Now I've gone through all of them. I don't recognize the other names. But, I mean, that's like 6 or 7 bands that you would still recognize today.
Yeah. This is just a great one. It's one of those movies where I know every single scene in it. I can picture in my mind his end debate on who to save, Robin or his love interest, when they're playing with him at the end. And the end when they're just running, him and Robin are running down the alleyway and the bat lamp is illuminated behind them. I can just takes me back to just simpler times of being a kid, and I love it so much. This tees up our next. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, my only note for this movie is this one was not as corny as the other Batman, I think. It could
Batman and Robin
gone on. Yeah. The only mistake I think they made is they put all of the bad guys in the same movie. So, like, where do you go from this movie? You know what I mean? Like, they could have had just Two-Face or just the Riddler or, like, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, it's just... That was the only note I had for Batman Forever.
I mean, it parallels perfectly to Bond at the time, where to me, this is GoldenEye, where it's a amazing first entry. It's weird because it's not a first entry. Batman was in such a weird state because we had the Tim Burton ones, and it came back with Val, and then it went on to Clooney. But it's the comp in that the Clooney one got really even more campy and crazy, just like Die Another Day and The World Is Not Enough got more campy and crazy.
Yeah.
And then they eventually regressed. And then we got the Craig Bonds and we got the Bale Bond or the Bale Batman movies. So they went on a very similar trajectory. I wanted to kind of tee up the segue in he not struggled a lot. He was so excited to do this and get this casting originally. I mean, who wouldn't? He said it's everyone's dream to be Batman, but not to play Batman, because he said wearing the suit sucked. He couldn't move. It was so heavy. He talked about how that's where some of that Batman turn, where he can't turn his neck stuff, comes from, because he couldn't move his entire body. And he chose, this was originally planned to be a 3-movie series with Val Kilmer, and he chose to walk away from it because he had an opportunity to work on what he thought was going to be a more creatively fulfilling project with 2 of the greatest movie stars of all time, and is our number 4 entry in the Mount Rushmore. Which, what is that, Nick?
It's got to be Heat.
It's got to be Heat.
It's got to be Heat.
What a movie. If you are not familiar, same year as Batman Forever, 95, directed by Michael Mann.
I didn't realize till just now they came out at the same time.
Yeah, they came out at the same time. It was just that Batman Forever was such a longer production that they, where Heat was a little bit shorter. So he was able to do Batman and then move on to Heat. Heat, starring De Niro, Pacino, the cat and mouse game across L.A., one of the all-time heist movies.
Is it the all-time heist movie?
For me, it is. This is a top 10 movie all-time for me.
You have Ocean's 11.
Yeah.
You've got The Italian Job. I mean, you've got some pretty big competitors.
Yeah. I mean, Nick, how do you feel about Heat?
Dude, I think when I think about Heat, I think about that brief moment in time when Dane Cook was on top of the world. And he had that joke.
Did not see you going there.
And where he has that joke about, like, if you're a guy and you've ever seen Heat, like, you've never not wanted to rob a bank more. Like, you're like, man, he is, okay, I know this isn't a Val Kilmer scene, but that diner scene is one of the best scenes in cinema.
It's one of the best.
I think.
I mean, and those 2 people they are at, you could say their peak was maybe a little bit earlier in life, but they are still the A-tier of A-tier actor.
Yes.
head to head for the first time in a movie.
Yes. And then you add a supporting cast that has Val Kilmer. And like even Val Kilmer had the little side plot with the love affair and the wanting to get away, and like it was just so good.
Yeah, that's one of those roles where when I was talking about, I feel like he brings just some real life pain to his movies.
Mm-hmm.
And he had a lot of lady troubles. You feel that in this movie with Chris Shiherlis. I mean, I really like that subplot with him being the underling to Neil McCauley. And I love the end when she doesn't want to sell him out and tips him off to go away. Oh, man, it's just such a great movie. Such a great Val role. This is something we could also kind of do as an adaptation. It's based on a real life confrontation between a Chicago cop and a real life named Neil McCauley. This cop, Chuck Adams, said he was a retired police officer who worked really closely with Michael Mann over his career to help him shape. Because Michael Mann, I mean, he returns to this heist, these cop dramas. I mean, he did Miami Vice, Crime Story, Thief. He did all of these. And he was kind of his consultant in a way. But he had a real life, professional robber whom he frequently crossed paths with and was never able to catch. And even that coffee shop scene was a real thing that happened between those two in real life, which is crazy.
We should do it.
I mean, he's working on Heat too. We could do it as a kind of in advance of that, which I think exists as a book, so we can do both them.
Say less.
Yeah, I don't know. Is there anything you want to say on Val in this movie?
I don't think a ponytail is Val Kilmer's best look.
But it worked.
But annoyingly, it didn't even look that bad. He still rocked it, and he's just a frustratingly handsome human being.
Yeah.
That's only note.
True.
No notes.
It's true.
Movie's perfect. Val Kilmer's performance in this is perfect. If you haven't caught onto the theme by now, it's that Val Kilmer's performance and everything he does is perfect, regardless of the success or failure of the rest of the film.
Yeah, and how he elevates just that role into something amazing. Two notes I had on this one were Michael Mann knew Kilmer was leaving Batman and a huge payday to be in this movie, which is something that I just love about Val Kilmer. He's just an artist where he cares more about feeling like he's working on something important to him rather than just taking a paycheck when he really needed the money at the time.
Okay.
And Michael Mann was like, how do I pay you back for this? Because I cannot pay you what a Batman franchise at Warner Brothers can pay you.
Sure.
And Val Kilmer said, put me on the poster between De Niro and Pacino. And that's how we got the Heat poster with him in the background. And it worked. I mean, because otherwise, watching this movie,
that's so funny.
There's such a huge cast of characters.
Yeah.
That, I mean, it does feel like Chris is the supporting actor of this, the third person on the bill, but the poster solidifies it 100%.
I have never noticed that about the poster, that he just got sandwiched between Pacino and De Niro.
Yeah, he had really interesting perspectives on it. I mean, his whole thing was heading into and accepting this movie and leaving Batman was he's like, how many people can say I can call up Al or Bob for the rest of my life and just call them Al and Bob and talk about our times making this movie. He's like, not many people get to do that. I have to do this movie.
Yeah.
And that is, who wouldn't make that choice? I mean, it'd be hard to turn away, the paycheck and the steady franchise, but he made a decision to walk away from it, which I think is really cool. The other note I had was you can't talk about Heat without talking about maybe one of the best gunfight sequences in movie history with the shootout.
Yes.
Where, it's legend at this point. It is one of the loudest movie scenes I've ever watched in my entire life. And, it sounds like folklore, but shown to Marine recruits, they show Val Kilmer scenes in this movie to show them in a gunfight how to actually perform the reload and load action properly and as fast as possible, because it looks like Kilmer is sped up in this movie doing it, but it's actually Val doing all of the sequencing and reloading and loading this gun and going in and out of cover. And they show it to new recruits on how to do this properly. It's amazing.
No notes.
Sounds fake.
Perfect. It reminds me of Keanu Reeves in that way. And I wish we could have gotten Val Kilmer in an action sequence in John Wick. Like him and Keanu together. And like it would have been ridiculous, but also everything I ever wanted. So
yeah.
Tell me that wouldn't have been cool. Because Keanu's a badass too.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, right near this time, Keanu's doing his version in Point Break. You know, another excellent movie. But he's just unbelievable. I mean, there's a theme here that a lot of Kilmer's movies are big dude time movies. Heat is another dude, first ballot Hall of Famer. I feel like it's having a bit of a revitalization in the world these days. Maybe that's just
young dudes finding
I love
it.
But
yeah.
I feel like dudes are just constantly finding out about this movie and being like, this is unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's just great. Love the beginning of it. The cat and mouse, the end. It's all incredible. And Kilmer's an important piece of it. Now, you have any final thoughts on our 4 there? I guess we can cap this because it is the same character. He came back as Iceman for Top Gun Maverick. One of the most emotional sort of returns. You know, that is fan service. And as I've said, you know, I'm a fan and I am serviced by this performance here. So great to see him be back with Maverick in his final role that he ever
I like
had to
that they did that. And I don't know if that's originally how it was written or they wanted to, you know, give Val Kilmer a send-off because he was very sick at that point. Either way, it was very, very, to your point, good to see. I'm glad we got that one last moment with him in a character we all loved. Him doing what he loved. Did Tom Cruise or anyone come out and talk about it and like working with Val that one last time? Or,
you know, I haven't read a lot on what Tom has said on it. I know in the memoir, Val said he reached out to Tom saying, I know I'm sick. I know I likely don't have a part because of my condition in this movie, but he said, I can do it. You could write Iceman in and I can show up and make it work. And Tom went to the producers and had them write in the Iceman plot. And I thought that's really cool. And he talks a lot about, you know, at the time they were competitive when they were younger, but he said he has a lot of love and a lot of respect for Tom Cruise, always has. And, you know, they maintain that friendship over the years, which is nice.
Yeah. Tom Cruise did call him a dear friend.
Yeah.
When he made like a remark after he passed away.
Yeah, there were a lot of real sentimental things in the memoir and even in the series of him talking about things he turned down. I mean, he was writing this like he was writing a personal diary in some ways, where he was talking about David Lynch and he was saying, you know, sorry, David, I turned this movie down. I hope I never gave you a reason for it. I hope one day we can work together. And it's just sad thinking about they both passed away this year. You know, it's never going to happen now.
Yeah.
And stuff like that it hits really hard knowing that he's passed away at this point. But it's great we got all these amazing roles over the years. How do you feel about our 4 we've compiled here?
I wouldn't do anything differently. Now that we've fixed the order and made Tombstone the Teddy Roosevelt, I feel good about it.
Yeah. I also like that Heat is our Lincoln. Lincoln is often considered the greatest US president. I think Heat is the best movie of our 4.
Really?
I think Doc Holliday is a better performance.
It's interesting that you think Heat is a better movie than Top Gun. I wouldn't have guessed that from you.
Yeah, I don't get me wrong, I love Top Gun.
I mean, maybe. Seems like you're hating on it now.
I love Heat. Yeah, I think the only if there was a 5th president etched onto the Mount Rushmore, I would put The Doors into this. It is one of his most famous roles. It's one of his few that he is in a really successful movie, The Leading Man. I mean, and he disappears into the role of Jim Morrison. He just, they talk about behind the scenes. He's doing all the singing in this movie. And he talks about when he was doing this with the band, The Doors band. The band was like freaked out and like crying hearing him perform as Jim Morrison because it was so uncanny. It's a great role. It's a flawed movie that I really like, but it's an incredible performance. So I think if Val were constructing his own Mount Rushmore, he would put this on there because he's really proud of this movie and this role. But it's hard. It's hard to knock off. I mean, you could make a case for knocking off Batman Forever, but it's Batman. If you're Batman, that's on your Mount Rushmore, in my opinion.
Yeah. It's going to be really weird doing a George Clooney Mount Rushmore and having to put Batman on it, especially his Batman.
Oh, yeah. I do like that movie, too. It's
a weird nipple suit.
It is the one where I'll concede. When people say Batman Forever is bad, I'm like, I just disagree with you. I think it's great. When people say Batman and Robin's bad, I'm like, yes, but I still love it.
Yeah, that's fair. You're allowed to. Yeah, no, absolutely.
If I were to give, some deeper cuts of Val's that I'd suggest people check out that didn't make our list, Top Secret. It's his first role. If you like Airplane, if you like those type of parodies, The Naked Gun, Top Secret's good. It's funny. And it's great seeing him as in his first performance ever, holding the spotlight in that movie. It's good. It's on streaming somewhere.
I'll have to check it out.
I've wanted to see, which I haven't seen, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, came out in 2005. It's supposed to be quite good. I don't know if it's Robert Downey Jr.'s first role after his, going to jail and rehab and all that. But it's a movie they did together. It's apparently quite good. Came out in 2005. I'd like to check that one out. I haven't seen that one. But I don't know.
I'm reading about it. Yeah, I haven't seen that one either. I want to watch The Doors probably first, then Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
Yeah, he went through, and then he went through, the tough thing is 2000s, he was in debt from his divorce, and you can see he was just churning out movies to make some money.
Yeah.
A lot of slop in there. And I think he was also branded. It's the sad part of Val. He was branded as a really difficult actor to work with. That kind of was the public persona of him. And, you kind of see through the documentary, which is all real footage. He filmed his entire life unprompted from his first movie on. So he has footage of him on every single set with a camcorder from the beginning of his career to the end of it. So it's crazy. And you kind of realize, like, he's not actually difficult to work with. He's just kind of a quirky, eccentric guy. He's like a true artist in that sense.
Yeah.
And then, like, at a time before you had like real PR, people behind you crafting your entire image, he got labeled as that, and he kind of just didn't fight it in public. And I think it's alluded to that it just really hurt his career in the 2000s and the early 2010s when he kind of faded a bit from the spotlight. And it's a shame. I think it's really sad. But he's great. I love Val Kilmer. Big part of my childhood. Some of my favorite movies of all time. Heat, a top 10er for me. Tombstone, talked about Dude Hall of Fame. Top Gun. The guy, he's great for all the reasons we've talked about. Anything final you got to say on Val?
No, it's just sad that we're not going to see any more Val Kilmer on screen.
Yeah. But we got still lots to go back to. There's always more movies to watch.
Absolutely. You can just rewatch Tombstone.
Yes. Might just go fired up again right now.
Have the rental for another 24 hours.
With that, we'll close the Val Kilmer files and our first ever special features. That was fun to put together. It was hard to narrow it down to 4, but I think it allowed us to talk about those movies in some good depth, which was fun to do.
Yeah, I think so too.
Thanks for listening, everybody. Coming up, we have got a few coming down the pike. Nick mentioned he's reading Gone Girl. We'll be doing that soon. Jaws, we're going to be doing for the 4th of July season sometime in July. How to Train Your Dragon, we went and saw it opening night. We got the toothless popcorn bucket. sitting out in my kitchen right now. I'm not going to say how much money I paid for that theater. I was sticker shocked when it came, but we got it.
If I guessed 40, would I be high or low?
You're spot on. It was $40.
Really?
Yeah.
That's what the Dune one was, and that's why I guessed that. And so that's what the Wolverine.
That must be the AMC or Regal, whatever theater it is. That must be their unique popcorn bucket price point.
Yeah.
And I paid it. We went on opening night, dude. We went, unfortunately, because I was going away that weekend and we wanted to see it before. We went to an early access screening, and it was only in 3D. I didn't even know they made 3D movies anymore. Not a great experience seeing 3D. Like wearing shitty glasses.
Yeah.
Like when I need to wear regular glasses, usually in the theater, man, it was tough. But I'll reserve my thoughts on the actual movie. I mean, it was very beat for beat. Yeah, we got that coming up. After that, I don't know. We got to scope out the second half of the year. But those are the few. I don't know. Am I missing anything else we're doing coming up? I feel like those are the big ones.
Those are the big ones.
Yeah. If you have any thoughts, questions, follow us on Instagram, Rewatch Play Podcast. Email us at rewatchplaypod@gmail.com. Thanks for listening. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the Val Kilmer filmography. Nick, it's great to talk Kilmer with you. Thanks for listening, everyone.